welcome to Reads and Threads. My name's Kate. Hello if you're new here, welcome back if you're joining us again. Today we are going over my February wrap up, my ins and outs, what I've been up to. We'll look at how I did with my Reach the Castle TBR, any extra reads that I did. But I also have decided to include a couple of extra things on top of the ins and outs like we did last month. I had always planned to have this channel be a mixture of books and cross stitch, which are two of my favorite things. Now, I haven't been doing a huge amount of cross stitch lately, but I am super eager to get back into it and kind of keep a progress run of how I'm doing with all of the works in progress that I'm actually up to. So I think we're going to go through where I'm up to with the probably 4 main projects that I'm in the middle of with my cross stitch. And then hopefully in March, I will get some progress done in at least some of those designs. And that would be great. Then I can kind of see and we can keep going where I'm up to each month and that kind of thing. And I'd love to hear about any of the projects that you guys have going on. That would be great. Let's get into it. Let's see all the books that I did manage to read in February. Let's look at the new ones that I've added to my collection that we haven't already unboxed in an unboxing video, and do a cross stitch update. We ended up having 8 rolls in Reach the Castle for February, which in this instance did actually mean only adding 8 books to our TBR, which was awesome. Generally, most of the time, I think that in and of itself is a pretty solid month. If I could read 8 books, I would be super happy with that. I though then had to add on another 6, which gave us an overall TBR of 14 books. This seemed extremely ambitious considering February is a shorter month as well. Was I likely to ever get to that many? Probably not. How I did though, of those 11 books, I did actually read 8 and I DNF'd 1. I then added an extra book in that I needed when I needed an audio, and the books that I had on my TBR I couldn't then get as an audio when I needed them. So I meant just doing a little bit of mood reading, which was fine. I had heaps that I needed to get read for different challenges and that kind of stuff, so that wasn't a problem. But it gave us an overall total of 9 books read in February, which I'm really happy with. And that's probably, since I started keeping track and doing these monthly TBRs and that kind of stuff, it's probably about right. So we're looking at anywhere generally between 7 and 9. I have had a few outlaying months where I have managed to get to 12, which has been so impressive, but it's definitely not going to be the norm, I don't think. Of those 9 books, this worked out to a total of 1,365 pages of the books that I read physically, and I listened to 4,823 minutes, or if you'd rather it, 80 hours and 38 minutes over this month, which is awesome. I am definitely getting on board with the audio. It was so weird because a few years ago, I would have been like, I'm not picking up an audio, I can't do it. And now I eat them up. If we were, however, to add in the page counts for the books that I listen to on audio, this is just going to be an average. It's not exactly correct depending on the additions that you end up getting, but it works out to about a full total of 3,745 pages, which I just think is really cool. And I have been keeping track in my new journal of the minutes that I'm listening every day and the pages that I'm reading, and I'm really enjoying watching that all come together. I'm definitely able to get a lot more audiobook listening done, just considering because I can do that while I'm at work, whereas obviously I can't physically read. Overall though, I did read 2 of these 9 books physically. I read 1 on ebook and I listened to 6. Let's run through the rolls individually now. First roll, we had a prompt card, which was a book with magic. For this one, I had popped in Chosen by Samantha Britt, which was going to be my hidden gem spot for our fantasy bingo. Unfortunately, I DNF'd this one at page 15. This was just not for me at all. I was not interested from the very beginning. I didn't like the writing style. I didn't like the way that it was going. Even just in those 15 pages, I knew this wasn't gonna work. So unfortunately that one was not a win, and we have had to substitute something else in for that prompt now, but I did give it a go, and I think it's just much better to move on to something that I know I'm going to like a bit better. For roll number 2, we landed on the Crowns, and these are books that I added to my want to read list in 2018, and we pulled out First Year by Rachel E. Carter. I had vaguely was under the impression that I had read the previous book in this, which was like a prequel, and I wasn't sure whether I ever fully finished it, and I'm still not entirely sure if I ever fully finished it. According to my Goodreads, I did, so we're going to go with that, but I'm not sure. So overall though, I gave this one 3.5 stars. We're following Raya as she joins the academy in an attempt to become a black mage, and she's decided that she wants to join the combat faction. There are 3 factions that they go, and they go through a series of trials to see if they can stay on and be eligible for one of the 15 spots that are available in each year. She is up against over 100 other applicants, and it is a hard and arduous task. She's also gone with her twin brother, and they are both hoping that they are going to be able to win one of these coveted spots. While she's there, she meets Prince Darren, who is the second son of the ruling king. So he is the non-heir. And that is the name of the prequel book, which I think I did remember stuff from that first book. I've definitely read the first book. Whether I finished it, though, still up for debate. So I did know a little bit about it as I was going into it. And as I read more, it was really coming back to me. I did like the trials and that aspect of this story. I thought that was interesting. And I definitely found I was remembering more the more that I went through the whole story. Overall, I did enjoy this book. I did find it fairly interesting, and I am looking forward to continuing on and seeing what's going to happen between Raya and Prince Darren. They're definitely setting it up for a more closer interaction with them. For this book, we only hearing the story from Raya's point of view, and definitely in non-air, we were getting to hear Prince Darren's perspective on what events that were happening around him. So it will be interesting to see what happens with the next one, whether we will one day get a dual POV or whether we're just going to continue following Raya. But I am intrigued what's going to happen. I do like a good academy trial situation a lot of the time. I think that's interesting. The magical elements and how they conjure their magic I thought was intriguing, and just the whole school in general, and the more that we get to see of that makeup and that kind of thing, I think it's just going to be really interesting. This one is an older series. Obviously, I added this to my want to read list in 2018, so it has been around for a while. There are 4 books in the main one and then non-air on top of that as well. I am looking forward to finding out what happens, though I don't overly have that need to jump straight into it. For roll number 3, we landed on The Mushrooms, which is my 2026 books, and we pulled out Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Shelter by Heather Fawcett. This one I knew I was getting a copy of, as it was going to be the first in the cozy subscription for Fairy Loot. However, it didn't arrive until right near the end of February, so unfortunately I didn't get to this one. For roll number 4, we landed on The Keys. These are books that I added in 2015 and 2016, and we pulled out Snow Like Ashes by Sarah Rash. I ended up listening to this one on audio via Libby, and overall I gave it 4 stars. I did quite enjoy the concept. In this world, we have the realms kind of split to do with seasons. So summer, autumn, winter, and spring. But then there are also 4 rhythm seasons. And where our main character, Myra, is from is winter. And winter has been overthrown by spring. They've all been forced out of their homes. And there is pretty much only 25 survivors after their homeland is invaded. Other than these 25, the rest of winter is being held captive by spring and forced to work in the mines. We are following Myra as she is attempting to find 2 pieces of a locket that they think they need to get back their power. The royals have kind of power amulets that help them use their magic. And when winter was overthrown, their amulet was split in 2. So they know where one half of it is, and they are attempting to gain that back. And then they need to find the other half, which is being held by the ruler of spring. So it was very interesting to see how this all progressed. Overall, I did quite enjoy this. I thought that the plot twists were fairly believable. I knew what was going to happen, which was fine. At times, though, I did find Myra a little much. I think that the way she reacted was very over the top in a lot of instances. She jumped backwards and forwards between wanting to actually help the effort for Winter gaining their land back, but still not having that need or memory of what it was because she hasn't been there. So she doesn't have that need like a lot of the older characters did to get back what they knew, because she didn't remember any of that. There are a fair few secrets that come out by the end of this book, so it will be interesting to see what is going to happen in the next one. I do love the cover for these, and I just think that, like I said before, the seasons and that kind of thing is always a really interesting concept when you get like fire magic, water magic, or just even the fact that their look and character descriptions really match the season. This was my first Sarah Rash book as well, and I'm probably butchering her surname, so apologies for that. But I did quite enjoy myself. I'm looking forward to continuing on, and I think that the audio was done pretty well. I did find, like I said, Myra slightly annoying, but overall a really interesting story. For roll number 5, we landed on another prompt card and we pulled out last in a series. So I added in for this one, The Impossible Secret of Lillian Velvet by Jacqueline Moriarty. This is also the last book that I needed to read for my niece's special picks from this series. Although I have, since doing all this reading, found out that this isn't the last book in this series. So I don't know that I fully did complete this prompt in the end. But the next one doesn't come out until later this year. So for now, we're at least caught up in this series. In this one, we're following Lillian, who has just turned 10 and is given a pickle jar full of gold coins and the opportunity to travel from Sydney, where she lives with her grandmother, into the kingdoms and empires, where she can pay with these coins to stay for a certain amount of time. And Lillian has no friends. She is extremely sheltered. She is homeschooled. She only has really ever met her grandmother and then a couple of neighbors who have moved away. So as Lillian starts to adventure through the kingdoms and empires, she meets our regular main characters and really starts to see that what is happening with her isn't okay, and wishing for adventure and friends and just the ability to go to school and learn things and help people. So it was an interesting story. I still think that I prefer the ones that are fully set in the kingdoms and empires rather than the moving backwards and forwards between the real world and the kingdom and empires. I do like that this one only had the narration from one character though over the dual in this instance. I still think that these are too long. I really do think that they don't need to be as long as they are. This one wasn't my favorite. Overall, I've given this one 3 stars. I think of their 5 books, my favorite has been the 3rd one, and that is my niece's favorite as well. So that's worked out really great. Some of the interactions that we have with Lillian, and especially her grandmother, and the way that she is treated, allows for discussion between the child reading the story. My niece is 10, which is the same age as the character in the book. So just being able to have those discussions with them to see what they're picking up and whether they realize that the way that this little girl is getting treated, or a lot of the other characters when we're in their storylines, that it's not okay, and that they can recognize that, I think is really interesting, and then work through what would be okay. It just leads to some good discussions. Overall, it has been an interesting series. I love that Chloe picked it out for me to read, and I am interested to see what one she will get me to read next. For roll number 6, we landed on The Owls, which is our challenge cup and books that I do really need to get to. For this one, we pulled out To Cage a Wild Bird by Brooke Fast. I am super eager to get to this one, but unfortunately I did not manage it in February, so that one will be going back into the Owl tub, ready for me to hopefully pull it out again soon. For roll number 7, we had a another prompt card, which is awesome, and we got randomize your shelves, which worked perfectly for what I needed to do for Adventures in Eldia, and we did that, and we got The Demon King by Cinda Williams Chimer. Unfortunately, I didn't quite manage to get to this one in February. I was waiting for an audiobook hold to come in. Like I said, I needed an audio at some point, and it just didn't arrive in time. So that one has moved into March, so hopefully I can get to it soon. And then for roll number 8, we reached the castle, which gave us our free pick. And I added in Faebound by Sarah L. Arifi. This was my first Sarah L. Arifi that I have tried. And we were using this one for our fantasy bingo for elves and dwarves, which it definitely does fit that prompt. I ended up listening to this one. I borrowed it from Libby. Overall, I gave this one 3 stars. I'm not really sure how I feel about it. There were some characters that I really enjoyed. I loved the Aubert, which was this really cool animal companion character. I found our main character, Yeren, slightly annoying from the fact that she just constantly wanted to get back to her old life. So Yeren is exiled after a pretty devastating operation in a war goes wrong, and a fair few people do end up getting killed. And instead of her being executed by her lover and the chief of her tribe, she is exiled. And then she ends up getting captured by the Fae and realizing that the Fae are actually real and not just a story that they have been told. While we're with the Fae, as she's held captive, she bonds with an Aubert, and that's not necessarily something that should happen. It only happens with the Fae, and so there is a few questions as to her heritage and whether she is fully an elf or she does have some Fae in her as well. It did make me as well Google whether Aubert were even, like what they look like. I just was really struck with the description of them, and I just wanted to see if anyone had done any character art on them. And I did find one piece of character art, which I will pop up on screen if I can find it again. But they seem really cool, and I really want one. The one thing I did find with this though, the audio narrator's voice for her sister was insufferable. I couldn't stand her as a character, and I don't know if that was just from the audio or that she was just annoying. So I wouldn't mind trying to read the next book physically to see if that still continued on, or if now that I've heard that voice, I kind of have it stuck in my head. I found that the relationship between Yeren and her love interest in the new camp was a bit quick of a turnaround for me. Like, it was a full 180 flip, like fairly quickly, I think, with not a huge amount of explanation. So I did find that one a little bit unbelievable, but overall, it wasn't a bad go. But I don't know that I am overly really that attached to any of the characters other than the Aubert. But we will see how we go with the next one and as to whether I eventually finish this off. So that was all of our rules for Reach the Castle. Let's go into the other extra ones that we added on. First off, for my In Real Life book club, the Book Hose, we needed to read Dead Girl Gone, which is the first book in the Bookshop Detectives, which is a series that is set in New Zealand. I listened to this one on audio by Libby, and I did really quite enjoy it. I had a good time. I thought it was interesting having the narrators having kind of a half New Zealand accent for a lot of the characters. And then when I Googled it as well, the town where this is set is a real town, and there is actually a bookshop run by the authors of this story. So this book is written by Gareth and Louise Ward, who are a married couple that have emigrated from the UK and set up a bookshop in New Zealand. And the description of this town seems pretty much exactly like what it is in real life. You can go to this bookshop, it is there, and the authors run it. They, I think, have a dog, which they included. Stevie was a really cute little character, and it was a very interesting idea. These bookshop owners are ex-police from the UK, and something has happened and they are very traumatized by it. They emigrated out to New Zealand, and they're just trying to set up a nice, peaceful life until they get roped into investigating the disappearance of a local girl from like 15 odd years ago or something. At the same time as doing this investigation, they are also planning for a major book launch from an extremely well-known author who wants to launch their next book in their bookshop, which doesn't really have the setup or space for a really big event. I think this one is a good kind of palette cleanser. It was really easy and fun going. I did find it a little bit predictable in parts. I did kind of pick a couple of the twists, but don't know that I figured the whole thing out, which was interesting. But then crime isn't a huge genre of mine, but this one I did find really interesting. I will be continuing on, and overall I gave this one 3.5 stars. The second book has been released, and then the third and fourth are planned to have a release date soon. And I do plan, when I eventually get to New Zealand, hopefully someday soon, to go and check out this bookshop. Next up, we had our first of our Buzzword challenge books, and for the title challenge, it was to use keyboard keys. Now, I did slightly cheat, although it is a keyboard key, and I popped in for this one, Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree, because of the ampersand. I needed to read this one again for Fantasy Bingo. I had this down as my cozy read, and this did not disappoint. I listened to this one on audio. I have an American library card that you can sign up for online, which gives me access to just an extra lot of books, some of which we don't have access to in Australia. And so I do like to check that out. I think I paid overall about 70 Australian dollars for a year of this library card. So I have a Queen's membership and managed to get this one on audio pretty quickly. So it was really good. I had such a good time with this one. This is definitely my favorite read of February. I gave this one 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. It is such a cool, quirky, interesting story. So we follow Viv, who is a barbarian orc, and she has the plan to leave the barbarian lifestyle and go and set up a coffee shop in this little town where no one has ever heard or knows what coffee is. She has saved up enough money and has managed to get her hands on a fairly rare amulet stone that should bring her good luck and draw to her the people she needs to make this coffee shop a success. So we do get to meet a whole range of different characters who come into her life as she's endeavoring to start again. And it was just such a good time. And it's just the simple things. It doesn't need to be epic battles and all that kind of stuff to have a really good time listening to a book. I just think this one is done really well. This one was narrated by Travis Baldree as well, and I think he did such a great job. I'm really looking forward to checking out the other 2 books in this series that are out at the moment. I don't know if there's going to be any more other than that, but highly recommend checking out Legends and Lattes if you haven't already, and just really looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with all the characters next. Next up, we moved on to the Buzzword cover challenge. For this one, it was to have a silhouette on the cover, and I picked up Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. I've been meaning to get to this series for a really long time, and it was okay. I ended up giving this one 3 stars overall. In this one, we're following DM, who's lived a fairly insular life, but still fairly close to the Descended, who are the ruling kind of people in this world. Descended also have different color eyes, which is one of the ways that you can tell whether you're descended or not. And the races don't tend to mix. If they do, it is punishable by death. It was an interesting story. I like the premise of it. I found DM insufferable most of the time that I was listening to her. I found her extremely annoying as a main character, and I am hoping that that improves in the next book, because I've just heard really good things about it, but I just could not get behind her. I couldn't get behind the kind of best friend relationship she's got going on as well, and just the way she interacts with a lot of the other characters. No, I really don't like her. I'm really sorry if you do, but I just thought she was not a good female main character at all. She is completely ignorant of everything that is going on around her. She's delusional in her thinking and she just has no idea. And they're not that far away from what is going on in the world. The ruling class are like next door, like they are so close. Her mum is the royal healer. So there's just a lot of naive thinking going on in this one and just unwillingness to come to terms with what is probably a reality for her. I will be continuing on. I did like the overall plot. Like I said, can't stand her. The end of this book packed a pretty big epic punch as well. So I am just really intrigued to see what happens. I'm just hoping that in the next one DM grows up a bit or that we just get some different perspectives maybe would be good as well. But overall, an okay first book in a series. Maybe I should try physically reading the next one instead of the audio. Maybe should be a little less insufferable, but we'll give it a go. See how we go. So overall, 3 stars. My next read, I picked up a new release which I needed to do for Herked. So my December new release for Herked didn't work out in December, so I needed to pick a new one. And I picked up We Who Will Die by Stacia Stark. This one is my first Stacia Stark, and we are following Arvel as she enters the Sundering, which is a competition put on by the ruling vampires, where they have to compete to become a member of the Vampires Guard. Arvel does not want to compete in the Sundering. She has no interest in being a guard and literally just wants to be able to take her twin younger brothers north to live in peace. In the end, Arvel is kind of blackmailed into competing in the Sundering. She has no choice. Her 2 brothers' lives are threatened, and to be able to heal one of her brothers who has a lung illness, she agrees to do this. But it's not only competing that she has to do, she is also tasked with executing the Vampire Emperor. Overall, I think this should have been a really good read. It sounds right up my alley. And while I was reading it, I was enjoying it. I just found that it was so easy to put down. I just wasn't super eager to pick it up. And it literally felt like it took me forever to read it. And I was physically reading this one. I have this copy from the library, but I don't know what it was. Maybe my mood was slightly off or something, but it wasn't really grabbing me. This has also been compared to The Vampire Diaries, and I can see that comparison. And in The Vampire Diaries, I am very much team Damon over Stefan, and I kind of like that comparison in this story as well. And I can see definitely where it's coming from. It definitely works as a comparison for this story. It will be intriguing to see how this one goes, whether that is something that it's like looking to emulate a little or not. We definitely have that bad boy vampire and then the one that's considered better and good. But yeah, it'll be intriguing. I did find in this one as well that there was a fair bit of repetition in the explaining of what she needed to do, how she needed to kill the Emperor all the time, that she was doing it for her brothers. And I'm like, yeah, we got that. We can move it on a little bit. The trials were interesting, though they didn't last overly long either. Yeah, it's a solid read. I just think it was fairly one-sided in this one. So hopefully in the next book, We Who Will Rise, which has been announced by Stacia Stark now, we'll just pick up that and have a bit more of a love triangle thing going on maybe, which would make it a bit interesting. I did pick the plot twist in the end, but it was fine. That didn't really detract overly from the whole story. I thought that was fairly interesting. But yeah, an enjoyable read if you haven't picked it up yet. I don't know if I already said, I probably did, but I gave this one 3 stars overall. I am also looking forward to meeting Stacia Stark. I am going to be going to a talk that she's doing at the end of this month. So that will be really interesting to see what she has to say and hopefully find out a little bit more about some of her other books. Like I said, this was the first one of hers that I picked up and I am eager to see what else she has out. Last book that I read for this month was an add-on. I needed an audio, and this one came in right at the right time. So I looked at the other challenges that I had coming up. Our Fantasy Bingo is the one that I am specifically trying to compete by, as it ends at the end of March. So I looked at what was in there and what audios I could find, and I did manage to get my hands on the audio version of Quicksilver by Callie Hart. This one, again, I've borrowed from Libby, but the Queen's Library version. So that was really handy. It just came in the right time. It was instantly available, and that is just worked out really well. I do have this special edition, which I do really like. It has some great artwork and then a different colorway of the cover on the back. But I also do like that I didn't actually have to physically read this one and potentially ruin the fancy sprayed edges. Overall, I did quite enjoy this one. I gave this one a 3.5. Would I say that this was the best book that I have ever read? No. It was a little cheesy in parts, and this is spicy, but also fairly misogynistic. I found a lot of the discussion between some of the characters I didn't need, and I didn't need the constant sexual innuendo that was going on between a lot of the characters in their discussion. So I felt, for me, that kind of detracted from the story. The fantasy plot, though, in this, I really enjoyed. It has everything. It's not only like a portal to another land. There's talking sentient metal, there is vampires, there is fae, there's everything. I did enjoy the interaction between Kingfisher and Ceres. I thought that that was interesting, but I also enjoy the interactions between Ceres and Carrion. My favorite bit, though, was another animal companion, and I really loved Onyx, which is a wild fox that Ceres picks up along the way, and I just thought it was so cute, and I really wanted Onyx to just be in it more than he even was at the beginning. It is an interesting concept. I am eager to see what's going to happen in the next one, Brimstone, which I do also own. It's on my shelves ready to go, and I do hope that I do get to this one in the near future. I did think that the audio for this was really well done, so I could potentially listen to that one again over reading it. I didn't have any problems following the story with it. I thought the narrator did a really good job, and yeah, really intrigued to see what's going to happen. I would prefer a little less spice probably in it, or even just a little bit less of the discussion of it. I don't mind a good spicy scene, just it was probably a little much. Hopefully, though, I can get to Brimstone before book 3 comes out in November this year. But yeah, if you haven't picked this one up, I definitely recommend giving it a go. It is more romantasy than fantasy romance, though. You definitely have the emphasis on the romance and the spice and that kind of thing in this one. And this, I would, not that I rate like Chili Peppers or anything like other creators tend to do, but I would say that this is, for me anyway, on the higher end of what I can manage when reading my fantasy. But yeah, still glad that I own the book and looking forward to continuing on. So that wraps up all our reads. Overall, of those 9 books, we ended up with 1 5-star, 1 4-star, 3 3.5 stars, and 4 3 stars, which gives us an average star rating of 3.50. So not a bad month. I had a 5-star, which I was always happy with, and Legends and Lattes would highly recommend. I'm also really happy with how many fantasy bingo books I managed to get to, and how many of my competition books that I did manage to complete this month. I do think it was a fairly good reading month. I am pretty happy with how we went. Like I said, I'm heavily into my audio at the moment, and I do tend to find that I need to have an audio on the go all the time. So I think with my wrap-ups and my reading, you will still see a lot more audio listening rather than physical reading, but I do tend to always have a physical book on the go at least as well. When we get one where it's slightly slower or my need to pick it up isn't as big, that definitely is slowing me down with getting through my TBR stack. So of the books that we run through, which one's your favourite? Have you read any of these? Would you recommend any others that lead off from these? I would really love to know. As always, more recommendations, the better. So feel free to leave those down below. But now let's have a look at all the new books I have added to my shelves that you have not seen yet. So one of my friends, Sarah, has set up a little library at the front of her house and accepts donations. And she got an awesome set of donations from a fantasy reader. Her little library, though, is got so many books that she offered them up to a fair few of her friends first to see if we wanted them, and I ate it up. So I found so many good ones that were in really good condition. So we do have a fair few to go through. I'm not going to be reading the synopsis of any of these. I'm just going to show you all the titles, and then if you think that any of them look good, obviously look into them. First off, we got the entire trilogy from Chris and Cicerelli. The last name Sarah, The Caged Queen, and The Sky Weaver. I'm really intrigued to get to those. One of them is definitely in to be read for her kid, so that would be great. I then picked up these bricks. We got Priory of the Orange Tree and A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. We then have The Final Strife, which is by Sarah Ella Reefy. So the same as author that wrote Faebound. This is the first in her other trilogy, so intrigued to try this one out as well. We then had another full trilogy, which look so funky. These are Rebel of the Sands, Praetor to the Throne, and Hero at the Fall by Alwyn Hamilton. I do have some other Alwyn Hamilton on my shelf, I think, but was just super happy to get an entire trilogy. So looking forward to checking those out. We then got another trilogy from an author I've never heard from before, but I just thought that they looked so funky and kind of piratey that I wanted to see what they were all about. So we got And I Darken, Now I Rise, and Bright We Burn by Kirsten White. So again, those covers just look so cool. We got another one from an author that we just read from this month, and that is These Rebel Waves by Sarah Rush. This is the first in a duology that she's written, so I only have book one, but if this one's good, I'll try and get my hands on book two. I then picked up the first 3 books in a series that I am very eager to get to. These ones came in a box set where I have gotten rid of the box because I just don't like boxes that much. And these are so floppy. They're insane. But we got The Kiss of Deception, The Heart of Betrayal, and The Beauty of Darkness by Mary E. Pearson. I then managed to get my hands on the second in a duology that I needed, and that was Weapon by Lynette Noni. Lynette Noni is an Aussie author that I have really loved her stuff in the past, and this was just a duology that I for some reason have never gotten to, so glad that I've managed to get my hands on that one. And then we got one that I've heard people talk about that I am super intrigued to get to, and is Truth Witch, Wind Witch, and Blood Witch by Susan Dennard. And again, really like those covers. So those ones were all as donations to my friend Sarah's little library. Some of them I did notice came from like a YA subscription box, which I'd never heard of. So definitely eager to look into that and see if that's something that I might consider getting a hold of, but we'll see. I probably have enough subscription boxes as well. I did also do a little bit of shopping. One of the nights when we went out to book club was at Glenelg, and down Glenelg there is a Dimmicks, so we maybe stopped in there and I maybe went upstairs to the sale area. They're like $5 each, so they're like essentially free. But I did manage to get 1 and 2 of this duology. So we have The Queen's Rising and The Queen's Resistance by Rebecca Ross. First in another series, we got A God Killer by Hannah Kenner. And book 5 of a series that I haven't started yet, but I do own a few that I've just been picking up when I see them. And that was The Amethyst Kingdom by A.K. Mulford. Really looking forward to getting to all of those. And can you really skip a sale? The last book I picked up in February, I needed to buy one more book. with Qwordy to get my gold membership to roll over for free. So I did go in and pick up Sky Beyond the Storm by Sabah Tahir. This is the fourth book. I think this is the fourth. This is the fourth book in the Ember and the Ashes quartet, which I am super eager to get to in March. So hopefully I love it because I now own 3 of the 4. I think there's just so many good reads there that I am super eager to get to and can't wait to give a go. Alrighty, last but not least, let's have a bit of a look at my cross-stitch projects, where I'm up to, so we can have a bit of a baseline for what I will hopefully update this month. I'm going to pop in some footage that I put in for my biggest project, so we'll enter that in here, and then we'll jump back and I'll show you the other 3. Okay, we've come into my other spare room for this. It's a bit echoey in here, there's not much furniture. But going through the progress, this is my biggest cross stitch that I'm doing. And we'll just look, I have done barely any in the grand scheme of things. It's very little. But as we're doing a monthly update, this is where I'm at. I do need a better frame. This one, though better, not ideal. That's my watercolor flowers, so hopefully we can see a bit of progress on that next month. One of the ones that I'm mainly working on when I go for Stitch and Bitch, which is my cross-stitch group with my friends, is this Gryffindor inspired emblem kind of thing. There is obviously the 4. I have already stitched the Hufflepuff. I've previously stitched the Slytherin one, but I need to do it again. This is not probably coming out on the camera, but the fabric is kind of like a mockery coffee look that goes with that. And I have tried to pick up colored fabric for all 4 designs so that when they're done, they kind of have that uniqueness that I don't normally do with a lot of things. This is where this one is up to. He looks a bit random without the eyes, but hopefully I can make some good progress on this one this month and move along. One of my next ones I have been working on for a while, and I thought I had lost the pattern. I have since found it, thankfully, and I have now replaced the needles that I need. So this one is done on 18 count, and that is this black and white with a little bit of red of London. And London is my favorite city, so I'm super eager to get this one finished off. As you can see, there's not a huge amount left to do. So hopefully that one won't take me too long. And the one thing I really like is that this clock tower, that's done with glow in the dark thread of the clock face. And so I think that's going to look really cool when I do eventually finish this. I'm hoping to pop this one back on to one of my handheld frames and get this one finished hopefully soon. The last one that I really need to get done so that I can give it back to the person who it actually belongs to. I agreed to finish stitching this project that their daughter had started and never completed. There was a little bit that I had to unpick to get it back to an okay position, and I did finish technically stitching it. I just have to put all the beadwork in now, and that is this lovely piece here. So as you can see, I don't know if they're showing up, there is a fair few beads and white spaces through all her hair and along her neckline and in her wings that require beads. That was a new thing for me. I'd never done any beadwork before, and this was the first time I had ever stitched on even weave, which is fairly different to the Ada that I'm used to stitching on. So that was a unique experience in and of itself, as well as the fact that the person who started stitching this one originally does her stitches in the opposite direction to the way I tend to do mine. So getting my head around that took a fair bit to go, but I really want to finish the beading. I ran out of beads, so I had to stop. I have since bought more, and now I just need to get it done so we can give it back to her and she can enjoy the cross stitch that she asked me to do like probably good 6 years ago now, which is insane. I need to get on this. So hopefully I can show you this one finished fairly soon, and we can give it back to the person that it belongs to. I will link down below, if I can still find them, all the info of where I got those patterns. With the, I think it's a Nora Aubert, I'm pretty sure is the name of that fairy design one. I will flash it up on screen if I'm completely wrong. I will try and link something. Like I said, I didn't buy that one. I don't own it. So I will try and link them all down below if you are interested in any of those. Some of them I have bought and owned for a fair while. I got from like Fox Collections catalogs, which is like a crafting service where you get a catalogue sent out and they do jigsaws and craft kits and all that kind of stuff. So may not have the necessary links for all of them, but I will try where I can, and they will be in the description if you are interested in checking any of those out. I am planning on doing kind of a sit and cross stitch with me, kind of cozy reading day, but with crafts. But we'll see how it goes. Look forward to trying to do that one, and maybe it will come up in the next couple of months. We'll see how we go. But that's pretty much it for me today. I think February went exceptionally well. I had a lot of fun with the books that I did read. I did spend a lot of time as well doing my reading journal, so we will have a flip through of that hopefully coming soon. I am a fair bit behind everyone online. This is the first year that I have decided to do a reading journal, but I am loving putting it together. So I am hoping to have that one kind of up to date with the months as soon as I can, so we can do a flip through that. And yeah, I hope your reading went exceptional. How many books did you manage to get to in February, and which was your favorite? I would love to know. And maybe a little like flower or Big Ben tower, if that's an emoji you could leave me for one of my cross stitches. That would be great if you don't have much to say. I hope that your reading is going great. If you haven't already, please do consider hitting that subscribe button and giving this video a like. It would mean the world to me. And if you would like to, you can come and join me over on Goodreads, Instagram, or Storygraph. I have linked all of those in the description down below. I hope you've had a great February and that your March is looking just as good. And I hope that wherever you are having a really wonderful day. And we'll see you next time. Bye.